Okay, we ready? Here we go. Hey everybody, Jake here with American Pipelining Supplies, DrainGear podcast. We're back again. It's been a while since we've been live in the studio, and we're really excited to have a special guest today with us to talk more about Trenchless technology. And we want to introduce Cameron Manners from Internal Pipe Technologies, IPT. Cameron is a pioneer in the trenchless business and just an awesome guy. I've really enjoyed getting to know him over the past couple of months and talking, collaborating with him, and then meeting his team at the recent wet show. So we're pretty stoked to introduce Cameron Manners from Internal Pipe Technologies. Cameron, how are you?
I'm doing good. You, Jake?
Awesome. Really good. Glad to be back in the studio. We've been absolutely slammed. You and I were just kind of talking a little bit before we joined together here, and it's been crazy. So not only with the wet show follow-up, but just even before that, things have absolutely been crazy. So we're really excited to have you on today. You are an absolute legend in the trenchless industry. I've known you for a long time. We've run in a lot of the same circles. We've traveled in a lot of the same spaces and places around the world. And so it's really cool to now be here together. You know, I'm running APS, you're operating IPT, and you know, we're kind of running in the same circles again. And so I'm really excited to collaborate with you and talk more about your products and how we're going to work together. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Jake. You know, you mentioned there earlier a pioneer, and always, you know, when somebody uses that word, you think of, you know, wagon trains going across the prairies and so old and stuff like that. So it doesn't really help me feel being in this industry for so long, right?
Right.
You know, but it's really cool time to be back into it. You know, I've been in it a long time, so I'm looking forward to working with your team and just watching the industry grow even more.
Yeah. There's a lot of need for what it is that we're doing right now, and I know that we've had more and more interest than I've ever seen before in trenchless technology and pipe rehab. And there's so many different parts now to the business. You've got, and we can touch on a little bit of your technology with the Gator tools and some of the things that you've got going on with cleaning machines, but it's opened up a whole new frontier of opportunity for guys like us. And so it's really nice to be able to offer these types of things to the contractors, because that's what they need. They need that for their customers. Aging infrastructure, so much opportunity, and being in these smaller diameter pipes is a really fun place to be, at least for me. I know you're enjoying it as well. But how many years have you been in the trenchless industry, Cameron?
So I've been, I'm a sheet metal worker by trade, and just was not wired the right way for a union worker.
Yeah.
So ended up leaving and then got into the kind of the trenchless stuff, but I'd always been kind of involved in it, go through high school and summer work and stuff. But I mean, I've been lining small diameters since the early 90s. I had done some little tiny spot repairs that we used to launch through Kleenex, and we just, you know, we'd put like 6 of them in line to cover up roots and stuff like that. So probably early 90s is really how long I've been doing small diameter.
Yeah. And you've probably seen things improve majorly over the years. I suppose a lot of what was done in the early days was fairly crude, and you know, it worked, but it wasn't as refined as things are nowadays.
You know, you can even imagine what, you know, the first systems that I'd come up with. I mean, we used to take a rooftop carrier, and, you know, there was no laminated felt on the small diameter set. So we'd use a sewing machine to sew the tube. And then we would just coil this liner up in this box and just pour liquid resin on top of it, you know, and just drag it through. You know, it'd be like 60, 70 feet long, and there's just epoxy everywhere.
Yeah.
We literally used to just get covered in it. So yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting when you hear stories from guys like yourself that have been in it for so long, and you hear the ways that things used to be done, and then you fast forward to today, and it's so much more refined. There's so much more access and ability. So it's made life, I think, a lot easier with the addition of color cameras, and, you know, now we've got we're into HD cameras and cleaning equipment that just couldn't possibly get down a line before. So lots of really cool technology to make our lives somewhat easier. Where is your company and where are your products made? Tell us a little bit about IPT and where you're located.
So IPT, I had another business that I had left and bounced around a little bit. And a good friend of mine, we were vacationing together, and he just said, Kim, you got to get back into this. We got to do something. So
Sure.
Started IPT a couple of years ago, and the plant's located in Abilene, Texas.
Okay.
So we've got 15,000 square feet there. We blend all of our own resins. We color resins. We cut resins. We blend all of our catalysts there. We make all of our tube there, and we also make all of our equipment is also there. So we've got a full metal fabrication shop there. I think we're one of the few guys that actually just makes everything that we use. We make it right there in Abilene, Texas.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I can't wait to visit. I know we've got a plan for me and my crew to get out there soon and spend some time with you guys. Now that we're really kind of kicking things off together. Tell me a little bit about your process, the pull and place process. We at APS are we're heavy on the inversion side, patching side, things like that. But we're really excited to get into the pull and place because there's a lot of opportunity for both types of technology in this space. And so tell me a little bit and tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about your pull and place technology.
So pull and place, really what it is, I've always been kind of inside that building, right? So, our focus has always been under that slab.
Sure.
And, typically, with the pull and place, you need 2 access points, but the good thing is they typically already exist. So by doing a pull and place, we can do remote starts. We can launch liners through vent lines down through around the 2-inch 90s at the bottom, pop a toilet stub. So basically the key with the pull and place is we're going to string a line between obviously 2 access points. But we're going to be able to line 100% of under that slab via a cleanup. And I think that's the key is pull in place is typically 0, no dig. And like, you mentioned it, that we'll probably get into it a little bit, but every lining technology has its place.
Sure.
And, when we get outside of the slab, that's where inversion tends to want to take over and is a better technology because it just suits better because our downstream access might be a manhole. So we always, we've always focused on under slab, helped our guys understand that. And the other nice thing about pull in place is, when we're pulling that in through a 2-inch 90s and things like that, the profile of the liner is so small that we're able to do multiple bends and things like that. So that's kind of what, that would be kind of what it looks like as far as pull in place goes and the advantages of it.
Yeah. One of the cool things that I really like about your website is the angioplasty video that you have on there. That it's such a great picture, and I would encourage anybody, if you get a chance, go check out their website and take a look at that video. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's www.internalpipetech.com, right? Yeah.
Correct.
And if you get a chance, go check that out. There's a really cool video there that kind of talks about angioplasty, and it's such a great depiction of kind of what it is that we do. We're operating on small diameter pipes in a way.
Exactly. And where that came from was so many people in the industry right now, Jake, so, and like, it is growing, and it's amazing that it's growing so much this far along. And it's really exciting. But what happens is contractors fall in love with what they're doing. So, you'll see a trailer with Trenchless technology on it and zeroed. None of those terms mean anything to the normal person day in and day out. So they walk by a trailer and they don't really understand what's going on. And what I found was, talking to homeowners and things like that, we were doing a training up in Dallas, and these elderly ladies kept walking their dogs past every day. We were working, and finally she stopped and she goes, what are you guys doing? And so I started explaining it to her, and then she's standing there, she's looking at me like a deer in the headlights. And I said, you know what? It's angioplasty for your home. And then she throws her hands up. She goes, oh my God, are you kidding me? She goes, do you know how many times I've dug up my bathroom? And then she got it, right?
Yeah,
as soon as you kind of put it into a term that she could understand. So we've always been playing around with that. And I think with us, one of the things that we're doing with our guys is we're getting to understand that it's about educating the homeowner. Stop educating yourself as a contractor and things like that. You need to educate the homeowner, because ultimately the homeowner doesn't know what's going on underneath their home. They don't understand cast irons corroding and rotting and things like that. They have no idea, So that's the big thing behind that.
Yeah. And a big part of what our job is as owners of a business like this is to educate our contractors on how to properly portray what it is that they're doing. And it's a really good point that you make about, the no dig and the zero dig, and those are all great things. But like you say, that doesn't necessarily translate to the average Joe or the homeowner that is looking to have something done. So yeah, it's great to put it in those terms, in layman's terms, and that video is a really good example of that. And again, anybody that wants to learn more, go check that out, because it's really, really good. So Cam, your products are really good looking products. One of the things that as we've started to kind of work together, you've created some APS liner for us. You've put our logo on there. It's got the QR code on there. Tell us a little bit about what that QR code does and how that can help the contractor in the field, and what that means to them.
Well, I think one of the big problems that contractors have, and it's been a problem right from the get-go, right from the beginning of the industry in small diameter, and that is training their guys. And these contractors always have a key guy, and that key guy leaves or something happens, and and then they stop buying because they don't have anybody that's trained on it. And the training, when somebody says something, they'll say, well, it takes me 2 years to create a guy. Well, and I know that when we go out and our teams go out and train, we're teaching guys how to line pipe in 4 days.
Right.
Yeah. And somehow they're able to, continually go down that road and install liner. So the QR code base was, we recognized that we needed to do something that was going to help our guys move along on the training process. Meaning, guys are thinking about the math. They got to do all the calculations. They got to do, keep everything in their head. So the QR is basically all that data is right there. Tells them their mix ratios, tells them how much per foot for 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 6 inch, whatever it is. So all of our equipment has those QR codes on it. So what we're trying to do is really kind of bridge that, that hole that's between the field and the office, help these guys train their guys, get multiple crews on the road, and try to kind of take care of some of that learning curve.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've obviously looked at the links to the QR codes, and we appreciate you custom making the QR code for our liners that you're providing for us. And it is a great way to bridge the gap between the installation process and the knowledge that these guys need to have in the field. It is tough because some of these companies do have trouble with retention. But one thing I've realized is when you can make this process fun, to the point where these guys, they have fun because they get it, number one, and they're confident and they do a good job, and it's a good feeling, and that creates a sense of pride, which then leads to fun. You go to work and you go, hey, I'm confident in what I'm going to do today. I've got 1 or 2 liners to put in. I know I've got all the tools and equipment and all the resources that I need to make that project successful, and it's a good feeling. And when guys feel that way, they want to come back the next day. And of course, making good money is also a driver, but you're going to make good money when you have good resources and good tools. And so that's one thing that we really like about this product is that the resources that you've provided there are really, really good. They're accessible. They're right at your fingertips on your cell phone or computer. It makes it super simple. So great job on including that. What other things could you tell us about the liner? Now, you had mentioned that you've gone down to 2 inch, and that's a bit of a taboo thing, honestly, still today. I feel like that's old news to me, having worked in small diameter pipes. Like when people talk about 2 inch, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, 2 inch, of course. But some guys still today are absolutely terrified to get into anything that would be even 3 inch. Some guys are really like, well, we don't even mess with 3 inch, So okay, so you said 2 inch, but what are the limitations? You go down to 2, or do you go smaller? And then what size do you go up to?
We'll go smaller. So we will do 1.5 inches. The big driver when you get down into the 1.5 inches and stuff like that is going to be, access points. Your 90s are a lot tighter on 1.5 inches, than they are in 2 inch and 3 inch. But I mean, I've had guys doing 2 inch. We've been doing 2 inch for 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it was one of the mainstays of my old business was our capability of doing down to 2, because there's a lot of 2 in the house.
Right.
And typically, we always call that the money shot, because it's always the laundry room at the back of the house, cutting through the
Exactly.
living room, through the hallway, and then tying into that 4-inch main. And that's where all your restoration typically is. So we just had to get 2-inch figured out. And, we've got it down. We've recently just changed our bladder mechanism inside our 2-inch, which is working much better. But yeah, I mean, when you get inside the home, you got to do it. 2-inch 90s are okay. Double 45s, triple 45s.
Yep.
It really works nice. And it's the secret is in that bladder system and how you're able to maintain and control that. And a lot of it, when it comes down to 2-inch, a lot of it is just knowledge,
Right.
I mean, we just got to transfer that knowledge into our guys, and the confidence, like you said.
Yeah.
That's a big one too.
And what size do you go up to?
So we'll go up to, so we just finished a underslab duct work at a house. And I mean, we'll do 14, we'll do 18, but specifically shorter lengths is when we get into that.
Sure.
We don't do longer, just simply because the resin cure times are not feasible for us.
Right. Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So talking about 2-inch and small diameter pipes, you got to have those pipes cleaned. Tell us about your solution for cleaning.
So way back when, in the pioneer days, as you call it,
Right.
I had developed some cutters. So we used to use a lot of air. So we used die grinders and things like that with chains on them and
Right.
stuff in the early years. And then I had actually found a company called Sooner Manufacturing out of Georgia, and they made flex shafts. And the big difference was the flex shafts had bearings on the end of each one. So they would prepare them and close them into some bearings and stuff like that. So with the 2-inch, we always had what we called a micro cutter. And I've been using flex shafts since the early 2004, 2005 time period. So understanding that, when you do get into that smaller diameter, opening it up and cleaning it and getting it as close to original diameter becomes paramount to the success of whatever lining you're going to do. So what's nice about it is, there's been some great companies to lead the charge on developing flex shafts, and, they've done a great job at kind of bringing it to market. So the technology really now has kind of caught up to where, no contractor should be afraid of 2-inch, because you've got all of the cleaning tools that you need out there in the marketplace. And that's the big difference.
Yeah.
And I think what you said, which was so much more going on now, I think the difference is that the cleaning has now opened up the market, and allowed contractors to get that pipe cleaning in.
Yeah. And it's created a level of confidence from the standpoint of, number one, I can get it clean, which access is king. If you can get it clean, you could potentially get a liner through it. And number two, if something does go wrong, you have the ability to use these same tools to potentially cut something out if you needed to, but then also reinstatements. Reinstatements are, have been a difficult thing over the years. I remember when I first, came across our Finnish friends and started to learn more about the Picote tools and what they could do from the standpoint of reinstatements, not necessarily even cleaning. That wasn't what excited me. The first thing I honed in on was, wait a second. Somebody actually created a really, really good cutting tool to cut from the backside. And so it's opened up so many more opportunities, I think, for contractors now. And it's been really exciting to watch over the past many years where this type of technology, the high-speed cleaning and cutting, has really become kind of mainstream. And it's just massive for guys like us from the standpoint of being able to offer really good solutions in that space. What other tools and equipment would a guy need? If somebody said, I really want to get into pull and place, what do I need? Do I need a 50-foot long trailer? Do I need, a 10 kW generator? What do I have to have all these crazy things, or can it be a little more simple? Can it be a little more basic and still be successful? What do you say about that?
Absolutely, it can. I mean, Jake, my favorite story when somebody asks me something like that was, in the early years I was in Hawaii and I had a project to do with a guy and didn't have a pickup truck. They didn't have a van to rent. So I rented just a big Cadillac, and I put everything in the trunk of the Cadillac and we went over and did the job. So
Nice.
it's, the nice part about pull in place is everything that we've got is pretty small. So, when people talk about, what's your compressor? And I'd say, I like the little Harbor Freight ones. They're quiet. They basically weigh about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And then you get a camera and a flex shaft. And I mean, basically that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
you can run pull in place. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can run it out of a pickup truck very easily.
Yeah.
With what you got to do. So I think that's one of the nice things. And I think it's one of the attractive things that's attracting guys to the pull in place is it is a very, very simple, inexpensive setup.
Yeah.
And you can maintain that, which then allows you to duplicate your crews. So I think in more cases with pull in place, you're going to find companies that have multiple crews doing it, as opposed to companies that maybe have inversion and that, may not have the multiple crews, may just have one key crew that they work around with the equipment. Whereas pull in place, you might find 3 or 4 or 5 trucks going on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that was one fun thing that, this year at the Wet Show, we were able to put your products on display, APS branded, and it really drew a lot of interest. And we're looking forward to continuing to follow up with those folks. But one thing that I realized is that it really does open up a lot of opportunity for us with guys that are looking to get started in the trenchless business, and they can't necessarily afford the big tanks and some of the things that you would have to have with air inversion. Air inversion, typically, you're going to need some sort of truck or trailer to put everything in. And this makes it a lot simpler to get started. And I think it's a great way for people to begin in the business. And like you said, there's lots of different tools and equipment available in this space, and this is just another one. And so is our inversion process. They're all tools that fit a need, and sometimes one's better than the other, and sometimes it's not. But it is a great way to get started, and so we're really excited to be able to kind of tap into that more. Beginner guys that are really looking to kind of start ground level, but do some really cool rehab work inside of homes, because a lot of plumbers, that's where they're kind of working. They don't necessarily start out of the gate as a plumber, taking on large industrial contracts or big commercial work. And, they're working with Mr. and Mrs. Smith at, 123, John Street, that's where they are, and that's where the business is. And so you've got a great suite of products that will help provide the need in that space. And so we're pretty stoked to be a part of that and continue to grow with you guys. But one last thing I want to ask you, because it's really important, and it's becoming more and more important as we get into regulation and people, oversight, things like that. Tell us a little bit about some of the approvals and things that people need to be considering, number one, and then some of those things that you have for your products.
It's actually a great question, Jake. And I think it's so one of the things that I'm going to be taking on, and, I will drag this industry kicking and screaming, and I don't care. I've done it before, and it's about time. It has to be done. So I'm going to be doing some articles for some of the magazines, some of the governing body magazines coming up. But the contractors, everybody's got to be aware of what products they're using, right? It's very, very important. ICC, UPC, full listing, testing products, getting the products tested, making sure that they qualify under the codes, and making sure that, the suppliers have done their work and are maintaining quality control as they're manufacturing things. So one of the things, there's been a lot of posts lately on other technologies, coatings, and then there was a couple more on some failed liners that contractors had left. And there's a lot of good contractors out there. There's a ton of good contractors out there that do a good job. When yourself, when you get your butt handed to you out there, you got to stick with it, and you got to fix it, and you got to do what's right. And I think as this industry is growing now, Jake, is the problem that we've got are cowboys, guys that are just go in, do something bad, cover it up, and leave. And I really do think for this industry to get professionalized and to be recognized, it needs to make that professional move to where we as contractors need to start to talk about how do we permit all applications of this stuff, right? So that there's that, so that the codes can do what they're meant to do, which is govern an industry, and drive quality in the industry. I mean, you get guys that are, they go through universities and institutes, and they go through certified training, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't change anything.
Right.
So ultimately, I think if we're all to just professionalize this industry and bring it out of the dark ages, permitting and external governance is pretty important.
Right. And I know that's a big part of your mission at IPT and with your products. And, I'm always learning more and more about that all the time myself. And there are really good resources available out there. And if you're a contractor, I would encourage you, look into those things, understand them, educate yourself on what it is that you're using. There's a lot of products available out there. They're not all created equal, and understanding what product you're putting in is important. Being proactive and making sure that it's done right in the first place is a number one thing. Making sure that who you're buying the products from care about those sorts of things and talk about it and make it known to you and help you understand that, so that you can educate your customer and put in the best product possible. So we do appreciate that aspect of what it is that you're doing in that part of your mission. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I know that we've covered a lot of ground here, and if anybody wants more information, they can certainly reach out to either one of us. Like I said, your website is www.internalpipetech.com. Ours is americanpipeliningsupplies.com. We'd be happy to help you in any possible way to learn more about pull and place and the different technology that IPT has to offer. And also the cleaning tools are really, really cool. I got to see them firsthand. I've seen them on the website, but seeing them firsthand at the show, really well put together. So great job on that. You've also got some really cool auxiliary equipment like wet out tables and different things that we saw. Yeah. You've got a lot of really cool technology there. So we're glad to be a part of that and be able to offer those solutions as well. So thanks for joining us so early this morning. I understood kind of when we booked this that you were out in California, so it's pretty early there compared to here all the way across the country in South Carolina. So Thank you so much for getting up early and joining us, and we sure appreciate it, Cameron, very much.
Okay. Cool, Jake. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining in again to the DrainGear podcast. We look forward to bringing you some more awesome content soon. And if you have any questions or would like more information, please reach out to us here at APS and or Internal Pipe Technologies. Would be happy to help you as well. So until next time, thanks again.